Hello, my name is Michael, and I'm going to share an experience I've had with MarineMax as well as Harris Manufacturing. About 2 years ago in January, we ordered two 25-foot, 150 horsepower Tritoons. We were super excited to get these boats in. We heard Harris had a decent boat. We ordered them in January, and then we were told they were going to be in March. Around March 1st, we were told they, quote unquote, lost the boats. We weren't exactly sure what that meant, but they just basically told us they didn't know the location of those two boats. Well, after asking a few questions, we found out they didn't actually lose the boats, that someone had misplaced the order. Either someone from MarineMax didn't send the order to Harris, or someone at Harris didn't put the order in the system. As a result, we were unable to get our boats in time for our spring season. So they told us we're going to do the best we can to get you the boats that you need. Well, our boats arrived on July 2nd of that same year. So approximately 7 months after we ordered them. When the boats arrived, they had us come down to the shop and sign some paperwork, but they wanted to deliver the boats by water. There's a reason they wanted to deliver the boats by water, and we also asked them to do this. The boats needed to be broken in before we put them out on the rental market. We needed at least several hours, up to 10 hours, to break the boats in before we rented them. Well, we signed the paperwork. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how this possibly went down, because this is basically our experience. Imagine if I had a 2021 Honda Accord with 3,000 miles on it, and I'm a dealer. And then I also had a 2018 Honda Accord with 25,000 miles. And the 2021 was fully loaded, leather, sunroof, and all the bells and whistles, but the 2018 was just bare bones and had about 25,000 miles. Now imagine if I bought it, paid online, and said I'll come pick it up because I'm out of state or whatever the case may be. And I show up and I sign on the paperwork, and I buy the 2021 model, and then they bring out the 2018 and said, "You signed on this." I said, "Well, I didn't sign on a 2018 model. I signed on a 2021. And they said, "No, look at the paperwork. You signed on a 2018. Kind of a bait and switch type thing. We're going to sell you the 2021, but when you get here, we're going to do a little bait and switch and have you sign on something else." Well, that's ultimately what we experienced with MarineMax and Harris Boating Corporation. We bought 25 horsepower. We ordered 25 horsepower, 150 horsepower, 25-foot Tritoons. They delivered 23-foot, 150 horsepower Sportoons in a different layout, a different seating configuration. And this was not the seating configuration that we needed to operate our boat rental business. Well, when the boats arrived, we said, "Hey, these are not our boats." And they proceeded to say, "Well, what do you expect us to do?" And I said, "Well, I expect you to get me the right boats. These are not our boats." They said, "Well, you signed on them." I said, "I don't care. These are not our boats." They said, "Okay, let me call corporate." So the manager of MarineMax called corporate, and this was July 2nd. Now keep in mind, it's 4th of July weekend, so it was in the evening of July 2nd. They were closed on the Friday. He got in touch with someone at corporate, and someone at corporate told us we could keep these boats as loaner boats until the new boats arrived. They would basically, they admitted they messed up. They would send us the new boats, and they would be in as fast as they possibly could be in. That's what we heard on July 2nd of a Thursday afternoon. Well, Friday, I tried to reach out to someone because I wanted to hear this personally and wasn't able to get a hold of people because it was 4th of July weekend and they were off on Fridays. So on Monday of July 6th, I called and spoke with a lady who was in management. I told her the story, and she said, "Yes, we will do our absolute best to get you the corrected boats. Use the boats you have as loaner boats until the new boats arrive." I said, "What kind of time frame? I mean, we're already 7 months late. We really need these boats, or several months late. We need these boats." She said, "Well, there's possibility that we could produce these boats for you in 2 weeks," which blew me away because it was July and we ordered the boats in January. So she sent me an email confirming everything. She was going to do her best to get it. Well, there were at least 5 to 10 pieces of correspondence via phone call, emails with MarineMax, Harris Boating Corporation, several different people at Harris Boating Corporation, and they told us we were going to get our boats. We even had a manager from MarineMax tell us as soon as these new boats arrive, that he would deliver them for us. Well, A month passes, nothing happens. Finally, I spoke to another manager, and he said, well, first of all, the lady that told you could get the boats in 2 weeks was wrong. There's no way we can get you boats that fast. We will do our best to have them in a month or maybe a little bit more, but there's no way I can produce boats, and I never have been able to produce boats in 2 weeks. So several months passed, and now we're in, don't remember exactly the date that I warned them. I said, hey, here's the deal. If I don't have the boats by approximately October 10th, we're going to have to hire an attorney. This has been 10 months. We don't have our boats. We're afraid if we're using these loaner boats. Well, October 10th passes, and we did not get our boats. And I said, at least if I get some kind of date or timeline, then we can, we're willing to excuse a certain amount of this. Well, we never got our boats. We ended up hiring an attorney, spent thousands of dollars dealing with that, only to find out MarineMax is basically telling us, and Harris is basically telling us, ultimately it's MarineMax, telling us since you signed the paperwork on the lesser boats, there's nothing they're going to do for us. Now, here's what's interesting about this. They knew that we were going to get loaner boats. And how did they know that? They kept the titles for those boats, both boats, for approximately, I'm guessing, a year and a half, because it wasn't until the attorneys got heavily involved that they conveniently sent us the title work after they knew that they had held on to the titles for both boats. You would only hold on to titles if the boats that you sold were going to be loaner boats and you were going to replace them. That's the only reason they would have held on titles for that long of a period of time. So basically, we're not sure exactly what happened. We're not sure if from the beginning process, if MarineMax never got the correct order over to Harris, and if they did, they may have messed it up. And Harris got the correct, let's say MarineMax sent the wrong order over to Harris. Either way, in some process, in some communication channel, the boats that were communicated from MarineMax to Harris to us got messed up. Now, here's what's sad. They had us sign on the incorrect boats. Now, I'll be honest, we didn't see that we were signing on the correct boats. You know how you sign pages and pages of documentation? You don't pay attention to details, and it's only a one number difference. I think it's a Harris model 230, and we were ordered a 250s or something like that. So it's not something that's going to be super visible and in small print. So we're not sure if it was purpose. They purposely forced us to, or ask us to sign paperwork. But either way, here we are 2 years later, and we do not have our boats. Actually, almost 2.5 years. It's now mid-April, and mid-April of 2022. Now, I'm going to say a couple other things. We made several forms of contact to try to get this resolved, hired an attorney. They are basically denying that they even though I have about 30 pieces of communication with details. And here's what's interesting. Every time I sent an email, I made sure to document 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dates and times and etc. of every time someone communicated to me that we were getting these replacement boats. So it was very, very, very clear. And I would give names, but I'm afraid there could be, I'm not going to give names because it's not appropriate. But I want to say this was kind of interesting. About 3 weeks ago, a gentleman from their company, someone we'll just say very high up in marketing, called to rent a boat, not realizing who we were. He was just down in our area. And I said, well, he said, what kind of boats do you have? I said, well, we have Harris and Avalons, and the Avalons are really a far superior boat. I said that. And he said, well, I beg to differ. And I said, well, why do you differ? He said, well, I'm the such and such, which was a very, very high person in their marketing department. I won't tell you his name. And he said, I beg to differ. I said, well, and I shared the story with him, and I communicated that we've had a horrible lack of communication, that we've had to hire an attorney. I bullet pointed everything that happened. And he basically said, well, I'll give you someone's name. And he pushed me off. And I've made 2 pieces of communication with him via text, because I had his cell phone number, and he's doing absolutely nothing to help me, which tells you they're interested in selling you boats, but they're not interested in servicing them. Here's what else they told us, that after this process happened, that they were not going to honor the warranty because of the fact that maybe the fact that we got attorneys involved or whatever. So here we are 2 years later, we have boats that are less value than what we ordered. They are doing nothing about it. I want to say a couple other things. Part of me is glad I don't have Harris boats. I'd be anxious to get rid of these ones that they quote unquote let us use as loaners that we've had for 2 years. They're junk. They're absolute junk. There's constant. We have 10 boats. And all we buy now is Avalons with Suzuki motors. And they're by far and away. And trust me, as a rental company that runs boats for anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a day, every boat runs 6 to 10 hours a day for almost a half a year. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about in regards to quality. And when I mean Harris Mercury motors are far inferior to Avalon, I mean it. An Avalon boat is by far, and I have no allegiance to Avalon other than it's been a great boat. And Suzuki produces a great motor, hands down better than Harris and Mercury. So I want to challenge you. It's really sad that MarineMax has not both stood behind their product and stood behind. I mean, I have paperwork saying that I purchased a 25-foot, 150 horsepower Tri-Tune, and they sent me a 23-foot, 150 horsepower Sport Tune. And again, I'm not sure if it was a bait and switch where they knew that they messed up and gave me the wrong paperwork or exactly what happened. But I challenge you, and I'm going to get I'm going to put this on Facebook pages, and people will make all kinds of snide remarks about, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, when you're in this kind of situation and someone promises you boats, you trust their word. You do what you can to get by, and you're in the middle of a season. You don't have a lot of choice. So I appreciate you watching this. I strongly encourage you to find another manufacturer and someone obviously other than MarineMax. Harris boats are not good quality. Now, if you drive a boat once a month and you're just scooting around a little bit, it's a fine boat. But if you want any kind of life of that boat, do not buy a Harris boat, and do not. Mercury's not my favorite either. I'm telling you, the Avalon and the Suzuki motors are by far superior boats and motors. Thanks so much for watching, and feel free to comment. Thanks.